just wrong. Okay. Are we recording?
Yes.
Okay. Was the meeting properly noticed?
Yes, it was.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call: Supervisor Moans, Supervisor Wimmer, Supervisor McLaughlin, Supervisor Krug is excused, Doreen Olson and Mary Lou Paylor are present. I'd entertain a motion to approve our agenda. Motion by Bruce Moans, Supervisor Moans. Do I have a second? Mary Lou Paylor, second. All in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. The agenda is approved. Has everyone had the opportunity to review the November 7th, 2023 minutes? I'm seeing nods. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Seeing that there's no corrections, the minutes are approved. Public participation, is anyone signed up for public participation?
There is not.
Okay, is there any correspondence for the committee to consider?
No correspondence.
All right. Was everyone able to access the sheet that corresponds to the land and water and UWX projects? And if so, are there any questions? The public notice, Dustin, that went out on the Seven Sisters Mine public release, is there any way that you could give us more information on that?
When somebody submits a reclamation plan proposal, either for a new mine or a revision, it has to, we have to publish it in the paper for, it's a class 1 notice, so it gets published once. From the date of publication, you have 30 days. If anybody requests a public hearing on the matter, we would have to hold one, then the ordinance gives exact time frames for that. At this point, we had one phone call on it. It was more just a question. And the 30 days will be up on the 16th, I believe.
December 16th?
Yeah, I believe it was in the November 16th, whatever that Wednesday was, that newspaper.
Okay.
And that was part of that. They're more specifically what they're doing is going, they're staying within the existing footprint, but they're going 60 feet deeper is the proposal.
Okay. Does that come before full county board eventually, or?
The reclamation plan would not, but the
request to go further.
Because it is actually county owned property, that was, I think that's already gone through highway because that's the purpose, something along those lines. I don't know if it had to go through full county board after that or not. I know there was a number of hearings over the last, or not hearings, but meetings on it over the last year, maybe just over.
Okay. I know that we approved it at one point to go down so many extra feet, but I don't know if that is relevant to this reclamation plan or adjustment or.
What we are working on the process of approving is the reclamation portion of it. Okay. Can they do it or not? That was
already established
because, like I said, it's county owned property. If it was in another area that was under zoning, we'd have to go through like probably zoning hearings for it.
Okay.
This is in Rome and Leola, so it was not under our jurisdiction for zoning, but the reclamation or the non-metallic mining ordinance does apply countywide.
Okay. Thank you. Supervisor McLaughlin.
By saying they're just going deeper, not laterally, but deeper. My other question is, so have they run into water at all?
Yeah, currently there is water and they do dewater it. It's quite a large property and they have, it's a bigger company that's doing, or, and it's I believe that one's Milestone. Bigger company, and they have the means to handle the dewatering without causing.
So the dewatering, it stays on site, is that what you're telling me?
Yep.
We've handled dewatering process in the past though, haven't we? Because when we were out there, I think on a tour, they were talking about the fact that they have to pull the water up and put it out.
Right. That was when that was originally approved, that was well before my time. Since that time, I don't think we've dealt with the dewatering, any change in plans or anything like that. But that would all be part of this plan that gets approved. And there's, like I said, there's an ordinance and state statutes or administrative code that regulates kind of what it has to look like.
Okay, Supervisor McLaughlin, thank you.
The reclamation still intended to be a recreational area with a like a small lake, or that's what I believe it was at one time at least.
That is a great question. I can get out it's draft or proposed form right now. I can send that out to the committee. I don't believe they did change what the purpose was. I just went swear to it at this time.
Thank you. If you could, that would be great. Okay. Are there any other questions? All right. Moving on to APHIS. Maddie Pfaff, am I pronouncing that right? Pfaff is here today, wildlife specialist. Maddie, are you comfortable there? Do you wish to come up here? Okay, terrific. Thank you.
Nice to be here in person this time. Sorry about the virtual last time. Today I've got 3 agenda items for the damage program. One is the budget, which is funded by a surcharge on Wisconsin hunter license dollars. So it's just pass-through money that the DNR pays through the county. So this is an annual budget that the county would approve to fund the damage program in Adams County. So, any questions?
Are there any questions from the committee members? Maddie, so this comes through the licensing fees?
Correct. Yep. It's a special surcharge on all Wisconsin hunting licenses that is for the damage program.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Anyone? All right. So we're sure. Supervisor Wimmer.
So a deer donation administration, there's the cost shared. So would that be the taxpayers of Adams County share? The $4,209?
None of this money is taxpayer funded. That would be cost shared by USDA. So
okay, so the 22, would you explain these to me, these upper levels here? Price charge to cooperator.
Sure. So the cooperator is the county. So the damage program is administered on a county by county basis. So it's kind of a cooperation between USDA Wildlife Services, the DNR, and then the counties. So the county would be the cooperator. Basically, the county, we charge the county for any costs that we have, and then the DNR reimburses the county for any of those costs.
Okay, so who is the 4,209 cost shared by WS?
That would be Wildlife Services, so USDA.
Okay.
Yep.
And then where does donated venison go? Can you tell me generally?
Sure. Generally, it's a food pantry. At this time, Adams County doesn't have any participating processors in the venison donation program. So as you can see, there's $0 for that this year, but I do have that form for 2024, just in case we do get a processor that's interested in signing up. That form's preemptively signed for this coming year. But you can check on the DNR's website. It breaks it down by county if there's any participating processors in the area. And every donated deer, the processor is reimbursed by the DNR for those costs. And then typically they'll go to a food pantry.
It does kind of surprise me that Adams County has a number of food pantries and none of them take advantage of the.
Well, it's the processor, yeah.
In Adams? Well, there is in Boston.
That's not Adams County.
Well, they don't have to be in Adams County. The pantries are in Adams County.
Well, it's based on the processor. So there's 2 other counties. Before this, I worked in Marquette and Green Lake counties. Neither of them had participating processors. And they kind of organized a special thing on the rifle weekends. It was, this year it was November 22nd and then the 26th. They had volunteers collecting deer for like a couple hours each of those days that they would then take to a processor outside of the county. So they were still able to offer that donation service to county hunters, but they just don't have any processors that are able to accommodate that right now. So that's an option for the future if Adams County is interested in organizing something like that.
Okay,
Maddie,
thank you.
is there details on what it takes to become a processor out on the DNR website?
I'm not sure. I'd have to look into that for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think that might be of interest, but
yeah.
thank you. Supervisor McLaughlin and then Supervisor Moans.
Thank you. So it sounds like, at least in the past, that we did have some participating processor.
Yeah, I'm not sure on the history of that.
One processor that I know of.
That was going to be my follow-up is that, you know, if we had them, why not anymore? You know, what was the reasons? Okay, that was helpful. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the common thing I've heard in the past is there's a lot of processors getting out of doing deer in general, just due to CWD requirements and the cost associated with doing deer. So they've got a lot of different reasons, but yeah, at this time, none in Adams. It would be great, but.
Thank you. Supervisor Moans.
The last time I checked, or the last time that I got involved, I don't think our pantries can do meat. I don't think they have the
refrigeration.
They don't have the refrigerator. It's all boxed products and canned products that they accept donations. So, and when they're handing anything out, they're not handing out any meat.
Don't they deal with eggs though?
Eggs don't need to be refrigerated, actually.
Well, they don't, but they should be if they've already been once. So
they've been once, it's true, but I don't know about eggs. I have no clue. All I know is that I've talked with them before about hamburger and even tubes of, you know, sausage, those pork sausages, and they said no, we don't have the means to keep them to get distribute them.
Interesting.
I asked
Sure.
them about that, you know, specifically the tubes that you can get, you know, like, so.
Okay. Maddie, one other question. When we're talking about the processing of deer meat and taking them to food pantries, you're saying that the meat is tested for CWD?
Yep.
Okay.
Depending on the county, there's a map of testing requirements. Certain counties require the testing and then others don't, but I believe Adams does. And then it also depends on the age class of deer. Certain counties are only testing adult deer, not fawns, and other counties are testing all age classes. So it's county dependent.
Okay. Interesting. Thank you.
Sure.
So I think we need a motion and a second. I'm sorry. Okay. Supervisor Moans makes a motion to approve. Doreen seconds to approve the county budget financial plan through APHIS. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion carried. Moving on to the next one, Maddie.
Great. Next, we have the crop prices. So currently there's only one full program participant in the damage program in Adams County. And this year he only had corn. So we can actually ignore all of the other commodity prices other than corn. This is an average, a monthly average for corn prices throughout the year. That's how we came to $6.33 a bushel. But this price is set by the county. So this is just a courtesy. We provide suggestions for these prices to you guys. Feel free if anybody has a different opinion on what he should get reimbursed for corn. That's fine.
Is there any Supervisor Mons?
I make a motion that the crop price be accepted at $6.33 a bushel for corn.
Is there a second? Supervisor McLaughlin? Supervisor McLaughlin, is it a second? Okay. All right. Open for discussion. Are we good at $6.33 a bushel? Go ahead, Doreen.
Just, I mean, as for today's prices, it does seem high, but if it's an average over the year, then I go.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Supervisor Wimmer?
Yeah, I continue to be opposed to the program. I don't think we should be paying farmers for damage to crops. They need to be have more options available to plant crops that do not require as much damage. And I'm opposed to the program. And with only one person participating, why would we even go forward with it? Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Wimmer. Anyone else? We have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay.
Nay.
Everyone is, Supervisor Wimmer was a nay. Motion is carried. So we are at $6.33 a bushel. All right, going on to the next one, Maddie.
All right. And the final item is the agreement to participate in the deer donation program. So we like to do this ahead of time, just in case we do get any interested processors for next year. Then we would have that agreement to go ahead and provide them compensation for any deer that they do process.
Are there Supervisor Mons?
I make a motion that we accept the Wisconsin Deer Donation 2024 county agreement.
Thank you. Doreen has a second. Open for discussion. Anyone? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion is carried. Thank you, Maddie.
Yeah, thank you. Who should I have sign these?
Oh, you can bring them over here.
Perfect.
Thank you. Do you need copies of these?
Yes, please.
Okay. All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you. All right. Pat, area extension report.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. Just a couple quick updates. Since our last meeting, I worked with Cynthia as county administrative manager to finalize the 136 contract. So it's been completed and executed, and a copy's on file here. That was the contract that's between Adams County and the University of Wisconsin, Madison Division of Extension, so we can have our fantastic educators here in Adams County working and doing great things for Adams County residents. The rest of my year will have me starting to look at what we call a summary evaluation, where I will need to meet with each of the educators at the end of December, early January, to go through their performance management development protocol. So if you have any feedback that you would like me to include, please let me know. I don't have a formal process for that other than give me a call, email, whatever, just to get some feedback to them so I can continue to coach them and encourage their stellar work. That's all I've got.
Are there any questions for Pat? Thank you, Pat. Drainage board vacancy update.
Linda's going to talk to you about that.
Okay.
Well, it's a both and, right? I mean, it's mostly the committee's responsibility, and because they have the statute requirement, Linda's been working with the board, so she has a better handle on that than I do.
So we have put advertisements in the Adams paper and in the Dells paper. We've sent out to our ag mailing list. We put it on Facebook, I think. Not sure about Facebook, but we've also reached out to the current board members and asked them to try to locate people if they could. So far to date, we have received one resume for the 2 vacancies. So for statutes, they like to have 3 for each vacancy. So we're Just trying to drum up. I know I did see a couple emails this morning from Lyanna that went out looking for people that were interested. So if anyone here knows of anyone interested in serving on the drainage board, have them contact us.
Thank you, Linda. Go ahead, Doreen.
Well, part of what Lyanna sent out, and I can send out to you, we did hand out previously the statutes that give all the descriptions. They, let me see here if I can find it real quick.
While she's looking, you'll remember that after we get those 3 names through the resume process, then we're supposed to send those on to the judge, and then that person recommends and invites the new candidates to be part of the board.
Okay. Supervisor McLaughlin. Oops, sorry, Linda, can you hold on? Okay.
What people could not serve? Like, who is it not open to? County board members, town board members? Are there any entities that I cannot?
Let me tell you what it says here in the statutes for qualifications. One county drainage board member must be an experienced farmer who is familiar with drainage, and one other member must be familiar to some extent with drainage engineering. Owning land within one of the drainage districts within the county does not disqualify a person from being a county drainage board member. That member can ask the circuit court to appoint a substitute to act when the matter involves that member's drainage district. There's no real right or wrong. There's nothing that says a county board member cannot be.
I saw something in there that did restrict county board members. So.
Did you? Okay.
I don't know where.
Well, again, I'll go through this and I will email this out to all the committee members if they need.
Thank you. So we're just waiting on 2 more.
Well, we've got 2 vacancies.
Right.
So, and we're supposed to have 3 for 1 vacancy.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Now, what happens when we get the resumes in, we'll bring them here and the committee will decide which ones to send on to the judge for appointment. And then the judge will make the final decision.
So if we find 4 applicants, would we move on with that? The 3 applicants?
The judge has allowed it in the past where we only had 2 applicants. He allowed it to move forward because it had been so long trying to get applicants. Okay.
So get the word out, right? Linda is where we are. Okay. All right. Sounds good. Anything else on the drainage board?
I found in the handbook.
Yes.
Just for the conflict of interest, it says no county drainage board member may deal. Oh, I've lost it. I know. Okay. Okay. No county drainage board member may deal in drainage district securities or have interest directly or indirectly in the deals of finding it on a phone. If you have a contract with it, any contract with the county drainage board, any contract for work or materials for a drainage district, any contract for sale of machinery or materials for or to the county drainage board, or wages or supplies for person employed to work in or for a drainage district.
So you mentioned county board, Evan, but I don't think that was in there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Correct.
Did that answer your question, Supervisor McLaughlin?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay, moving on to the educators report. I'm hoping everyone had an opportunity to read over the educators report. Are there any questions for the staff? Supervisor Wimmer?
Couldn't get it. There's a thing on the report under professional development. And it says gender and patriarchy. What is that? I couldn't bring up the website. Can you tell me what that is? Or would that be Sheila or
it looks like it's under Angela, maybe. Unless I mixed my pages up.
Hey, that sounds
and maybe that's under collaborative work.
Angela, are you on?
Yeah, I'm on. Sorry, I'm not in person with you today. The gender and patriarchy, that was not meant to be a link. I'm not sure why it showed up as a link on the report. And that's just one of the topics that we were covering in the learning community for inclusive organizational citizenship cohort. So this is a cohort that I'm in. It's a 12-week discussion with colleagues around the state. I'm in the 7th cohort. It's been going on for a little while. But we meet, the first meeting was an all-day meeting just to build trust with the group and go over guidelines. And then we meet via Zoom once a week for an hour and 45 minutes on Wednesday. And so we're just discussing some pretty sensitive topics, looking at race and disability. And last week we started talking about gender and patriarchy. So that's why that's on there.
What is that? I mean, I know what gender is and I know what patriarchy, but what does it mean in context to us? Or what you're doing? What the extension is doing, I'm sorry.
See if I can explain this. With the focus being on equity, is the main focus, being equitable. So we're working together to build awareness and develop behaviors that align with our values. So our discussions together, the wisdom that we gain from our collective conversations will help guide us just to be more aware of where maybe we could make changes, where we're more equitable with everyone. So it's a professional development.
Who is that geared to?
The cohort?
Yeah, who are we dealing with here?
So the cohort for learning community for inclusive organizational citizenship is through the Office of Inclusion Access. So they're providing the professional development for all Division of Extension staff who is interested in taking the professional development.
Thank you, Sheila. I don't understand, but
this is Angela.
Angela, no worries. Thank you, Angela. So we and me, when you're saying that, we're talking about UW Extension, correct, or the cohort?
It's an opportunity that's presented, and individuals can choose to take that. So it's something that Angela, this is Sheila, that Angela, who's not able to be with us because of an injury, that she has chosen to learn more about. We did that. We told you about how we had done the civil rights review. And so they encourage staff, people in general, right? We're all supposed to learn more about each other. And so this is a way for this group of individuals across the state to learn Doesn't cost the county anything. Again, she's a FoodWise educator, and this is paid for by the university.
Thank you, Pat.
Thanks, Pat.
Yes, Supervisor Wimmer.
The newsletter to parents. And it shows a newsletter to be kind, inclusive, and it gives an example of inclusion. And is this supposed to be sent to parents in the school district or parents that are in 4-H?
This is for parents of students who are in the teen outreach program at the 6th grade at AF Middle School, specifically to those parents.
I'm going to tell you what I feel about inclusion. The example it gives is perfect. If you're in a game and somebody doesn't get picked and they're getting ignored, you want them to be included. But I'm going to give you an example of what they're using for inclusivity. And it happened in a school district not too far from here. And it's happened in several districts. And there were some young ladies in a school system that were taking a shower, and a male who chose to identify as a female came into that shower, and those girls were very intimidated and were so intimidated they didn't even want to tell anybody, but they did. And if that's what we're talking about for inclusion, we're on the wrong track here, because nobody should be intimidated into being inclusive. It's all on, identification is in the eyes of the beholder of what inclusion can be. Your example is very good here, but people should not be intimidated. We should be teaching our children discernment of what is good and what is not good. And so let's say you want to go to a drinking party. Well, do you want to feel all inclusive, that everybody's included in that? I don't believe so. So I'm basically going to tell you that I'm opposed to this newsletter and opposed to the identification that they're using for inclusion. I would put discernment as the major things we should be teaching our children. Okay.
Sheila, do you wish to respond?
Do.
Thank you.
So what you see there that's highlighted that says inclusion, and that text was written by a student as a part of our community service learning project to have students create posters that highlight a choice of concepts that they chose from, which included inclusion, acceptance, unity, and kindness. So the students chose from those 4 concepts, did some research on what that word meant to them, and were instructed to consider, how would you like to see people treated in your school, maybe differently than they are now. And this was a project to oppose bullying. And they were instructed to come up with a poster of their choosing that exemplified one of those concepts, which came from a national anti-bullying resource center. So that's where this project came from. This happens to be one of the 30 posters that was created from this one student who decided to utilize inclusion as something that she wishes to see more of in her school.
Thank you. Supervisor Wimmer?
Yes. Part of this, part of the example I showed you about the school districts and the attempt there was to make it seem like the embarrassed students that were female were bullying. They weren't bullying. They were ashamed to be, and very innocently should feel that way. And you run the risk of being the bullies because you want everybody to think like you, and not everybody does, nor should they. We run into a problem when we don't teach kids to think independently. And that's all I'm going to say. Thank you.
Doreen?
I think we need to stick to the facts at hand that involve our county in this program and not be outreaching.
Thank you. All right, Supervisor Moans.
I hope, I really don't know how to address this, but in reading that article, the grammar is incorrect. And I don't want that out there. Don't want, even though the student wrote it and it was that person, I think it should be corrected. Because it just is, the grammar is wrong. And you look at it and you think, well, you know, that's accepted by, and it's not. And that's commonly done here. And I'm just going to say it. We don't correct it. We don't take that and say, hey, listen, we got to correct that. You're not using proper grammar. And when that specifically, the word your is not done right, it's accepted. Well, that's okay, but it's not okay. So I would like to see, I don't know if people accept that, that's fine, or they want the kid to write then, but then they should go back to them and say, well, maybe you should correct this. We looked at it, we appreciate your article, but then teach that child. We have a teaching moment there, or an opportunity.
Absolutely. Sheila, did you wish to?
Yes. With these students working in these small groups and creating these posters independently, I mean, we barely had time to read them, let alone take them back to the students and ask them to correct them. I totally agree. I really wish we had the capacity to go back and tell students to correct these. And I wish that we could guide them and provide some more coaching. I am not an English teacher, and I go in to the teen outreach program as a professional outside of the teaching staff. And there are a notable literacy delays and issues within the school district that I don't have data around, but I'm noticing them. And this was one of the better ones that I received. And so the fact that I did not select this particular one for inclusion in the newsletter. My program partner selected them from a limited number that we happened to have photos of. We didn't have photos of every single poster that the students submitted at the time that we created the newsletter. So we had limited options for what to choose from. And like I said, this was one of the better. And again, I don't have the capacity to teach English within the context of the teen outreach program.
Do you hear any comments back from these parent-teacher conferences along the same lines as what you're hearing here? But we all hear things, right? So I'm just curious.
In terms of the grammar?
Well, I mean, it was handed out, right? I mean, as a parent, I would, if I saw something that I was not happy with, I would.
We have not had any contact from parents as a result of this newsletter. We have had contact with parents, just not as a result of this newsletter. And our contact information was included in the newsletter as well.
Can you keep us posted moving forward on that? Okay. Thank you. Anything else from anyone? I have a question in regards to the difference between Amish and plain communities. Could someone hit me up with that, Natasha?
So plain faith is a generic term to describe these Christian communities that choose to live apart in a way that many of us would consider old-fashioned. And so plain encompasses Mennonite, Amish, and Hutterite communities. We don't have Hutterites here, but they do exist. And so it is the generic term. Mennonites and Amish are two groups within that term, and within each definition of Amish and Mennonite, there is a wide diversity of beliefs and structures. And so every community of Amish and Mennonite has their own guidelines for what is accepted and what is not. And so within Wisconsin alone, we have Mennonite communities that don't use the internet and only use flip phones, and don't use cars. And then we have Mennonite communities that are the most tech savvy people you will ever meet. So the full range of, it's a very broad term. there are Mennonite communities where you would never know unless they told you that they were in plain faith community. And then there are communities that are very obvious to our untrained eyes. So.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Dustin.
I just wanted to say I attended that webinar, or the webinar for the Adams County people. Extremely informative, and I've worked with the plain communities for about 25 years now. And I learned a lot from that couple-hour thing. It was actually a professor from UW-Madison who is Mennonite that gave the webinar. So
excellent.
Kind of.
Thank you.
What she was talking about, tech savvy. So
thank you. Okay. Anything else from the committee? Yes, Supervisor Mons.
I personally would like to thank the extension group. You know, they say that with age comes wisdom, but the person that's been in the business world for a long time, hiring and recruiting and training, these people, every one of them seem to enjoy their job. At least you can tell in the tone of voice, or at least I can. I appreciate that. And the humor, and then just getting the job done. I just would like to commend them all for the work that they're doing.
Thank you. Pat.
I Adam Hartfield is not able to be here today. He's our newer livestock educator. He is at what they call cohort. He has to go through orientation that way, but he is doing a great program coming up here on January 11th at Signature Farms. He's partnered with that farm. They have the Angus cattle out on County M just before County G. And I have the promotional brochure. It's a cow-calf producer meeting. He wanted to, if anybody wants one, please be willing to take that. His program will focus on a presentation by the herdsman there at the farm, winter feeding and forages by Bill Halfman, who is a beef specialist for UW Extension. Adam will be doing a presentation on developing replacement heifers. And then a partner from the Lodi Vet will be talking about, vet client patient relationships. The Lodi Vet and then Wisconsin River Meats have partnered and will be making some donations to the program. So if you want to take a brochure today, be sure and get them. I'll pass them this way.
Is there any requirements to sign up, Pat?
There's a $5 contribution because we're having a meal, or he's having a meal, and he has to know head count. So that contribution will go towards that.
Deadline for signing up?
Is January 1st.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Doreen.
Chairman Shapey, can I add to that?
Yes.
So if you want more beef programming in your life, Adam and I are partnering on a program on January 18th in Wautoma at the courthouse in Waushara County. And he and I will be presenting, he'll be presenting about winter care of cattle. And I will be talking about the relationship between grazing and soil health in Wisconsin. So
Natasha, can you hit me with the dates on that again?
January 18th in Wautoma at 1 p.m. And I don't have a copy of the flyer printed out, but I will be emailing it soon. So
okay. Could you get it to everybody on the committee? All right. Thank you. All right. All right. Yeah. And along with Supervisor Mons, excellent job on the level of details you guys provide in your educators' reports. Thank you very much. And the links too. Okay, moving on to the financial reports. Do we have any questions in regards to the financial reports for UW Extension? Looking around, I'm not seeing any. So I think we're good. Thank you all for coming over. Have a super Christmas. That's right. All right. Land and Water. Land and Water staff report. Are there any questions for Dustin or to pass on to the Land and Water staff? I'm assuming everybody had a chance to read the report. I have a question for you. Has the drone been used to track down invasives at all? Because I noticed that on, hold on. I think there was honeysuckle located along a stream bank Let me see who did that one. That was Colton. David Hines property, and I didn't know if a drone would have been used for that.
Not to my understanding. The drone has been in use, but I don't believe it was for that. Colton is not licensed yet as a pilot.
Kyle is the only one, right? Kyle Kettner,
correct,
at this stage.
But Colton and Kiefer, that's their goals for this winter, is to become licensed.
Okay.
It's a good idea to have more than one.
Right.
I don't believe it was involved in this.
So Kyle did not participate in it and fly a drone.
No, I'll double. That's my understanding. I'll double check and get back to you if I hear anything.
I was just curious where we're using the drone and where we're not. So,
they were going to be using it for the dam not dam inspection, mine inspections, which we do right around this time of year. Usually a little bit more in November. But with Colton just coming on, it was pushed back a little bit. It would be used for that and for stream bank monitoring.
Sure. Okay. Okay. Yeah. And would you please thank the staff for giving us the information that they do in their report? Doreen.
Under the highlights, it said completed cover crop survey. See more details below. And I'm not finding where the details are.
Is that under Kyle's?
It's right at the top under the highlights. It's the fourth one starred.
That would be under Kyle's report. Now you're going to ask me which one of his. If you go into that matrix, that it's the link.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to find it under the gun here, but
I think it's under the CCA certification, isn't it? Maybe not. I thought it was. Which is down near the bottom. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong thing here.
It's throughout the matrix or that link. There's a number of places where it does talk about cover crop. As far as the reports, like what he found this year, if that's what you're looking for, I don't believe that's in here. It's more where it's involved in or where it's incorporated into the 9 key element plan.
Okay, so that's where that bulletin comes in. It just kind of fed into that plan.
Right.
Okay.
I can talk to him if he has something like they're on C, I think it is. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So
where is that link?
That if you
you just had it
right here. It's at the top of Kyle's.
Within the 9 key element plan, there's a lot of milestones. If you notice his staff report's slightly different than everybody else's, where it'll have like a number after it, it's something in parentheses. You can look at that and it ties right back to this spreadsheet. But these are all things he's supposed to be working on towards completion of that.
He's got a full plate.
Oh yeah. And some of these things are.
But his always says ongoing.
Some of these are ongoing and even well beyond the 3 years that this grant is for. But these are things that he's responsible for initiating or completing, depending on the situation. I will talk to Kyle though if he has some type of.
I just didn't know what it meant by completed the survey. Did he take the survey or did he compile the data? And
he actually drives around to all the farm fields in the 14-mile watershed and looks to see what is on every field.
Okay.
And then compiles that data. I don't know what kind of final report he has as far as, if he has a compiled in acreage percentages, if that'd be something he'd be interested in seeing, but
yeah, I just didn't know what that meant. Like if he was collecting data on the helpfulness of it, or, you know, the results of it. Of
The
cover
varieties
crops,
used or whatever?
Or
Okay,
the
yeah.
survey is just how much was planted and
Yeah, a lot of
the
it
growth
is,
height, that kind of stuff.
or acres using cover crop and types of cover crop.
Okay, that's all. You don't have to give them more to do.
Well, I will see if he already has it completed.
Okay.
Sorry.
Go ahead,
We'd like to
Supervisor.
see a presentation on the work he's doing. I know he has last summer, I believe it was, but it's quite a bit of work. It would be nice to see some of these things, have them embellish on it.
What and I think that's something we should shoot for in the summer. We will be completing the 3-year staffing grant is up at the end of next year, about November. And as we near that end of the grant cycle or end of the grant period, I think that would be a good time kind of do the final. Here's what I've been working on for the last 3 years, kind of thing. He does have to put something similar to that together for the DNR as well. But I think it would be important to do that. Is that too far off or?
No, not, but I was just curious, when is the new grant cycle? Because it's a 3-year phase, right? And so we certainly don't want to get to the end of this 3rd year coming up, right? Before we actually go for another grant, or are we not?
Isn't another grant?
There isn't. This was one of those special.
This specific one is basically a one-shot deal. There are others that aren't promising.
Okay, so are we pursuing anything?
We're looking at options, yes. And this one, like I said, does go until
end of 2024, isn't it? Or
it's actually November 28th. But I think we've committed to funding it or we're treating it as the end of 24. So we would be getting into that time where we would be looking at options. The options that would be out there wouldn't be specific to the 9 key element plan is kind of my take on it. Doesn't mean we can't do it, but we're always looking at grant opportunities for sure.
it would be nice moving forward to have options that we're looking at and aware of as a committee to provide that funding. Because I don't think any one of us here think that Kyle is going to be done at the end of November 2024. So if you could keep us going on that, that would be great. Much appreciated. Mm-hmm. So, okay. Are there any other questions for Dustin or his staff? Supervisor McLaughlin?
I want to go back to that notice for the Seven Sisters Reclamation Plan modification. I guess I need an explanation. Is this hearing to discuss the fact that they want to go deeper by 60 feet?
No. The hearing is for the reclamation plan. So the reclamation plan would be kind of what you were talking about. Is it going to be a pond? Is it going to be restored back to farm fields? Those types of things. As far as whether they can do it or not, that would be up to in this case, the portion that's in Rome. They would be approving or denying it. Leola doesn't have zoning. I don't know if they.
I think the deeper part was already approved. I think it was.
Right. So that's a done deal. But when you have a mine, you have to have a reclamation
Exactly.
plan.
I guess that's why I'm a little bit confused that you didn't know what that was either. I mean, it's been, as far as I know, for ages. I mean, when I was still here, and I had never heard any different, but it was to be a recreational area with a lake. It's county owned property, and it was going to more or less probably end up a county owned park.
Right.
And everything. So, I mean, I guess I'm just confused why that seems like nobody knows that.
And the reason is because I have it's about 100-page reclamation plan that I've had Colton reviewing to make sure that it's complete. And I don't know all the details of it. But there is a very substantial plan in place. I mean, been provided, and that's what I can get out to you.
Okay, as I recall, I mean, there was even discussions because if I'm not mistaken, you have at least some nearly vertical sides. So, you know, and you envision it filled with water at some point in time. And then I was part of it, as I recall, a discussion about, you know, what about those straight faced vertical walls and you got water in there? Does that present a hazard with no, you know what I mean? With no graduating into it, it just, so anyway, yeah, that's my last recollection. Well, the way it started out and the way it stayed was to be essentially a park.
Right. And that's what it, even today, that's what the reclamation plan in place, that's what you're saying. And that's still in effect today, because the original proposal only had them going down to a depth of 90 feet or 100 feet. And now they want to go lower than that. They have to revise their plan. I don't think the end use changed. That's what I'm saying. I can't commit to that answer without double checking. Right. And the specific point you brought up about shear walls and stuff like that, that's all part of that. Those are all things that are addressed. Making sure that it is safe, so you're not creating dangerous situations, whether by not being able to exit or whether it caves in. And then on the areas that aren't going to be a pond, if there's requirements in there that they bring in at least 6 inches of topsoil or a foot of topsoil and over the whole site. That's fairly common depending on the end use.
So Dustin, are you saying that the 100-page document that you and Colton are reviewing is the revision?
Yes.
In comparison to what was out there prior? I mean, do you know what I'm saying? Are we looking at what we had and there's some kind of notation in this 100-page document that says, well, we had this, but now we're moving towards this? And
no, we're looking at it as a standalone. Look at the entire plan. Does it meet the state statutes, administrative code, and our ordinance? We know there's certain areas that were changed. Nothing, they didn't double the size of it as far as like footprint. So we're not having to look at that. It's what are you doing with the extra 60-foot depth? That's why I don't think it is changing from the pond. But it's an update, but it's still a full plan that will then replace the previous plan.
Okay.
That maybe answers the way, or
yeah.
So there may be parts that remain the same in the new plan from the past and just some changes, but
absolutely.
It's a full,
this one is going to exchange this one. Once it's done and it's approved, this one.
Yes.
Okay.
So it doesn't have just the changes. There's not 100 pages of changes.
Right. Exactly. Okay. Yes. All right.
That's
okay. Thank you, Doreen. All right. Yes. Oh, Mike Baker. Do you wish to ask the committee or Dustin a question? Supervisor Baker?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Very lightly.
I'm just wondering on like Chuck Sobilski's report, the acronyms that are used, I don't know what those stand for. And he has several different things in the bays, involving bays. Could somebody indicate where maybe that was located and what those acronyms stand for?
So Bays is a farmer.
Yep. They are, the Bays farm is in the town of Adams. Give me 1 second to bring it back up here. So the SWARM acronym is a DACCAP grant program. It pays for a lot of the funding staff funding for our division, and also it does the cost sharing if a producer, a farmer implements certain measures, stream bank protection, nutrient management planning, windbreaks, I believe, are under that. There's a number of many different things. There's a cost share between the owner and the county, but the county portion gets reimbursed by DACCAP. FPP is Farmland Preservation Program. What drove this specifically, Bay's family doing this, is they wanted to start enrolling in the Farmland Preservation Program, where you can receive an income tax credit you have to have a compliant nutrient management plan. You have to be zoned a certain way, and you have to produce a certain amount of revenue per year. Then you get an income tax credit. When they applied, there was a couple of things that needed to be addressed, some barnyard runoff issues, and those are now complete as of like last Wednesday, I believe is when it finished up. Was there other?
Are there any other acronyms, Supervisor Baker, that you'd like further detailed?
Could Dustin tell me where the Sanglaw property is located? That's got several bullet points as well.
He's nodding. Just in case our camera isn't picking up on that.
Give me a half a second here. Okay, maybe more than a half a second. So those are section 26 in the town of New Haven. So they're down in the Briggsville area.
Try to swap it.
About as far away from you as you can possibly get. But they, I believe that project also finished up. I think that one finished up 2 weeks ago. A lot of it happens towards the end of the year. His might have even been right before deer season came into play during that one. Admittedly, I don't remember as many details about that one as I did the Bays one.
Does that answer your question, Supervisor Baker?
Yes, Madam Chairwoman, thank you, and thank you to Dustin.
No worries. We have a scheduling conflict with Supervisor Moans. He has to leave here at 2:15. So could we go to section 13 and 14 and then come back to the dams report and come through there? Is everyone okay with that? Okay. So we're gonna pop down to the bat habitat conservation plan and agreement and resolution. Okay. The resolution was returned to the committee while we were waiting for the agreement to be finalized. So has everyone had a chance to study the agreement over? That was linked to the document. Melissa brought it up in case you need to point anything out that you have a question in regards to, and it goes back to the resolution. So this is already created. It's no longer in draft form. This has nothing to do with us except our knowledge of what it consists of, the agreement. So the resolution mentions this agreement. And so if you go over to the resolution, that is where any changes would occur. So down at the bottom, be it further resolved line, that the county forest administrator be authorized to sign the agreement that was just on the screen and submit this document to the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. So we're looking more at the resolution than we are at the agreement, except that the agreement is now in final form. Dustin, am I spot on this one here? So we're looking to see if we have any changes to the resolution before we're sending it back to full county board.
Right. And as I'm sure most of you know, earlier, what was it, March?
I think
April?
So. Yeah.
Spring. This committee had approved it. The agreement, the full habitat conservation plan, that's at 430 some odd pages. That actually was adopted by the 3 states. The date on it was January of this year. And after that, DNR started creating these agreements where we can be, as a county-owned forest, and this only applies to the 140 acres of county forest land. If in the future we add more, we can add that in, but it's still the county forest, not the forest in Adams County. I guess is a good way to put it. The agreement was at the legal staff with the DNR at the time we went through this. It passed, or they've signed off on it, gave it to the owners now and said, okay, this is finalized. Most of the information was filled out by the DNR for us. There was a couple of things I had to add that they requested me to. And that's what that is. And essentially the resolution is to authorize me to sign that and participate in that. On a side note, we have a timber harvest coming up in a couple of months. Not the end of the world if this isn't done, but it'd be nice.
Are there any questions to Dustin? Or Dustin? Supervisor Wimmer.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Dustin, was that, if we sign that resolution, which we have, right?
We've already passed it on.
The committee has.
But yes. we brought it, we had the full county board give it back to us because we didn't have a finalized agreement in place. We hadn't had an opportunity to read the agreement.
Okay.
In its final state.
But I think you need to bring that up because I think Mr. Wimmer did not sign it because he opposed.
Right.
Correct. So did you have an opportunity to read the agreement?
Well, I have a question for Dustin. If you sign the resolution, you're also come under the Bat Habitat Conservation Plan, which is the 3 states. Is that correct?
That's the purpose of signing the agreement, is so we can get included in that.
And that's why I voted against it. And that's why I think the board sent it back. We're still under this. Don't get me wrong. There's some federal programs that are very good, but this program right here is a detriment that any landowner in Adams County would be opposed to if they actually read this agreement. Because if you lose total control of your property because you have to go through this Bat Habitat Conservation Plan. And my example was if you wanted to paint your house or do some remodeling, if you came up with a brown bat or one of the other species, that you would have to stop construction and have a special group come out and to take care of the bats and that type of thing. So for a state resolution, I wouldn't have a problem, but if this dumps us into this 3-state plan, I'm continuing to oppose it.
So Dustin, could you speak to, yeah.
So again, kind of what I just mentioned, this doesn't apply to anybody in Adams County except for our department and 140 acres.
So it's just the county forest
Yep,
that this applies to.
It's a 40-acre parcel on Lake Camelot, and it's a 100-acre parcel next to the mine that we were just talking about. Those are the only enrolled lands we have in county forest. So this has absolutely nothing to do with your property or anybody else in Adams County.
Actually, it would be very difficult, wouldn't it, for someone to be enrolled in this unless you have 10,000 or more acres.
Or you're a county forest.
Or you're a county forest.
But it's still their choice.
Right.
It's their choice to enroll in this.
Right. Right. So this just pertains to the county forest, Adams County Forest.
Correct. So then as I went through this 430 page doc or whatever page document, almost all of it is strictly preventative measures we need to take. I don't have to call anybody to come out and verify anything. If we know there's a hibernacular on one of those 104 or somewhere's in that 140 acres, we can't harvest a tree within
150 feet.
Yes. We don't have any known hibernacular, so really this doesn't affect us in any way, shape, or form. It's really on that super off chance that us or the logger, somebody missed it. We're trying is kind of what it comes down to. It doesn't cost the county anything to participate in this. And then there's also actually under chapter 7-3, there's a paragraph I thought was interesting. It's a federal law that's been around since 1998. Sorry, Bruce. There's a federal law since 1998 that if you sign on to an agreement like this, and this is actually a 50-year plan, at no point can the federal government come back and tell you, oh, now you have to start doing this, if it wasn't written in this plan originally. And as I went through it, there's the executive summary, the first, I think it's maybe 6 pages, really recap the entire 400-page plan really well. There's 3 other pages. If you can get to 5-7, I don't have an actual page number, unfortunately, but I might be able to find it. Page 275. Okay, I like 274, but here's what the plan is requiring us to pay attention to. On the left-hand side where it talks about biological goals, specifically maintain healthy forest. That's the goal of our program anyway. By default, they do provide habitat for bats. Protect and enhance roosting and foraging. So that's as you look on the right, it kind of talks about how those things happen. Most of it is by using best management practices for forestry, which we're required to use because we are a county forest anyway. And that's where if there's a hibernacular, we have to deal with it. Or the state on state-owned lands, they put it in the plan that on state-owned lands, if they happen to find a cave opening that is deteriorating, they have some things in there where they're going to try to improve it. What this incidental take permit is, and that's a great example, they're trying to fix this opening, make it better for bats. While they're doing it, they kill a couple of bats. The Fish and Wildlife Service isn't going to come after, or the federal government isn't going to come after them for killing an endangered species because it was part of the plan. They can do it. They're supposed to try not to, obviously, but the overall benefit, it's part of a bigger plan to actually improve it.
Thank you. Supervisor McLaughlin.
Thank you. As I recall, this discussion brings back, I believe in the spring, a comment I made was that since this involves only county-owned forest land, which is minuscule at this point, I recall saying that by going along with this, it's an insurance policy for the county against being caught in a corner because something accidentally happens. I know I said that, and I feel the same way now. I mean, because sure, I'd have huge apprehensions if it applied to everybody, but in this state, it's protecting the county. That's my conclusion.
I agree.
Thank you. Is there anything else?
Just the irony of it all. More bats will die at the hands of the federal government than anything we ever even considered doing in these 3 states or our county.
Thank you, Supervisor Homer. All right, I'd entertain a motion. Motion is by Bruce to adopt the resolution as written after reviewing the agreement. Do we need to verify everything on the agreement?
You've had that opportunity.
But you filled out the information.
Right, myself and the DNR have. The resolution says I can sign the agreement.
Right.
At that point, I'll make sure it's fine with the, I mean, DNR will go back over and just make sure, but.
So basically the motion is to send the resolution in its current form back to County Board for consideration. Okay, do I have a second? I have a second from Doreen. I feel like I'm doing an auction. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Thank you. Supervisor Wimmer is a nay. All right. Next one. Entertaining a motion to create a policy that allows this committee to ratify or decline a budget. Supervisor Mons?
Who's gonna make that, who's gonna write that?
That we still need to even come up with a motion to have someone create a policy. Corp Counsel Hayes.
Yes. I looked over the county board rules regards to the committee. The committee doesn't have the authority to approve the budget.
Okay,
So-
but
Are there
rules-
state statutes?
No state statute. Right now, what it is the county board itself approves the budget. So
So
that's
this
where the
is
authority
for
is.
the land and water UW extension budget portion of the overall budget. That was where we were last meeting.
Right, yes, the committees do not approve department budgets.
Right.
Can
And
you show us where it states that we do not have the authority?
The county
I
board
don't think
rules
it
aren't here.
states we don't have the authority or the authority. I think we're looking to.
Right, when you look at the county board rules, if it doesn't say this is what you do, you don't do it. So. And then you look at the other things, again, the county board itself is one that approves the budget, so. As far as the committee goes, the committee can, say, let us look at the budget and look at it. So then when it goes to the county board, if you have a question on it, obviously you can bring your questions and make any type of request for changes that you want. But the committee itself doesn't have the authority to approve or deny the budget. That's left up to the county board.
So one of the concerns that we had was that we have 2 citizens on our committee that would not be able to be at the county board, which is where this whole conversation is evolving. So thank you, Supervisor Mons. Have a good night. So that's where this concern is derived from.
And again, the non-county board supervisors obviously can't approve the budget. So that's also.
Right, but they don't have a word in Edgewise either unless they would attend, and some of them cannot attend the county board meetings.
They can at the committee level. For example, when you're looking over the budget, they can say to everybody else, here, for example, like this is a concern that I have. Can you raise that at the county board meeting? So they could give you directions to raise it.
Which we did. But
I'm just going to say this sounds a lot like Cynthia rule and not county board rule, because this is absurd. My mother used to be on the county board for many years, and the committees did the budget. They approved the budget. So I don't know when it changed or how it changed, but it is ridiculous that the committee has absolutely no say and no input into the budget. And that is exactly what you said. The committee does not have input into the budget. They don't approve or deny, and is absolutely ridiculous. And I would recommend that this subject be brought up not only at the finance committee, at the county board level, because I don't think the rest of the county board knows and understands what lack of control, what lack of authority they have in running their county.
I want to correct that. I didn't say that the committee didn't have input. You have input. I said you can't approve or deny it.
We don't have input when they come and bring us the thing, and they don't give us data, and they don't give us answers at a timely manner. We didn't have any input. They gave us the budget and that the day before the public hearing, and they gave us data to answer our questions the day of.
Then what I suggest that you do is bring this to the county board and ask that the county board rules be changed to give the committees the authority to approve or deny budgets.
It absolutely needs to, because I don't think county board understands what little input. I mean, you guys are worthless. You have no say over how this money is spent and done. And you're signing your name on it. It's ridiculous.
I'm on the rules committee and it is on my list, Doreen.
Thank you.
Yep.
I don't know when it changed, because it did. And I will tell you that my mother just had a conversation yesterday with Bob Gabarski, and he is not under the understanding that the committees have no say in the budget. His understanding is that they do, and we don't. We don't have any input. It's just mouth. It's just words. It is nothing.
Again, you're using it different there. I said you don't have the authority to approve or deny.
That is no input.
Yes, you have input. And as I said, you can get the input. Then when it goes to county board, such as the other county board supervisors can say, hey, this committee had a concern concerning this budget. This is what we'd like to have changed, or this is what we want done.
That is not input. That is not input.
Supervisor Wimmer.
Yeah, there were several supervisors that was one of the reasons that they did not vote to approve the budget. I think there were at least 5 supervisors that did not like the fact that the budget was rammed down their throats, and that there was very little power in the committee to change anything. So we do have the rules committee come up, and it could be it should be on there, the roles of committees.
Yes. And I don't know if I'm speaking out of turn or not, but there was a email sent out to the supervisors today on 2 noon workshops on board rules that you can sign up for. I think it's the 13th and the 20th of December through the WCA. So I'm sure if you would like to be on that, Doreen, to just learn more about board rules, I'd be happy to forward that to you too.
I'm going to be honest, it would be a waste of my time. It doesn't appear you guys have much authority of anything in this county anymore.
We're trying to get it back. Yep. So, okay. So you're saying then that a policy could not.
Yeah, at this time, you'd have to look at getting the county board rules changed to make that.
Okay. Okay. So we'll have that on the back list. So, okay, now we're going to go back up to the dams report. And that is item 12B. I better put my cheaters on. 12B. Dustin, could you?
Nothing. I mean, there's nothing different than no updates since last month.
Nothing? Okay. Anything to do with county forest?
We're sneaking up on it. We have been not stealthily, sneaking up on it for quite a while now, but currently the title work is being done, processed. I asked I've asked a couple of times, but I asked specifically this morning about a time frame for that, because we can't go to joint finance until that is complete. When I originally sent it over, it sounded like typically 2 weeks is about the turnaround time. So I kind of am expecting it back fairly soon-ish. With that being said, it is a number of, how many different parcels was it? Like 23 different parcels or something along those lines. So I guess I could potentially add to that
sometime.
But no other updates besides that.
Okay.
I did mention it before. I guess I can repeat that. We do have a the bid opening for we do have a timber harvest coming up that's scheduled this year. Everything we do is we rely heavily on the DNR because we don't have enough land to have somebody devoted to being a county forester. So it's been scheduled that we have a cut done this year. Anticipated value, depending on which estimates you use, looking somewhere in about around 10,000, probably a little on the lower side or under that a little bit. One of the issues, because it is a smaller cut, when we would try to advertise it and get loggers to bid on it, we're small potatoes. So what ended up happening is and it was in the paper did I see it I think it was last Wednesday. They kind of included us in with the same advertising and the same bid opening as the state lands in Waushara and Adams County. So Caleb, who is DNR, he said it's worked well for him in the past because the loggers look for the DNR sales because they're usually bigger, and then ours happens to be there too. And it's like, oh yeah, we'll pick that one up too. So that bid opening is in about a week and a half. So it'll be interesting. And then they'll be probably in the late winter to do that, or whenever they can get in there. Okay. And that's on that 40-acre parcel in Camelot.
Thank you. Were there any, I'm so sorry because I forgot to ask, were there any questions for Dustin regarding the dams or the county forest? No? Okay. Mary Lou, Lake Alliance report.
Hey, there really was nothing at our November 7th meeting. There was only 5 districts there. So McGinnis Lake, though, after attending their meeting last week, they started the aerator. They're partnered with Schmidt Aquatics for a treatment plan. So they'll go over and see how they can treat their lake next year. And the town, I believe, of Newchester is giving some money from ARPA for this. Jordan Lake, they're using the same chemicals. They have nothing different right now. Their lake had dropped, and that was in November, had dropped from 17 inches in April. I should say had dropped 17 inches from April to October, but of course then it was starting to come back up. Deep Lake had nothing. Wolf Lake, their level was starting to come back up. Peppermill Lake is going to purchase a harvester, and they may or may not, let other places use it. But so right now that's it. They're not having a meeting in December, so the next meeting will be January.
Thank you, Mary Lou. Any questions for Mary Lou? All right. Thank you so much. Doreen, FSA report?
We meet on the 14th, so I don't have anything. Maybe next month.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you. There's nothing to report on the Central Stands Groundwater County Collaborative. Our next meeting is in January. Are there any questions, concerns to send back to DATCAP on their report? That was linked to the agenda. Thank you, Melissa, for doing that. All right. Seeing none, we're going to move on to the water withdrawal from area lake districts. Hopefully everyone had a chance to review the information that has been linked. There's 12 pages there. There were 2 emails that Melissa put on today. One was sent from the DNR, addressed to Corp Counsel Hayes and myself. And then Jeff Spitzer-Resnick, the gentleman that was up here from Goose Lake, had some information to share from MEA, which is the Midwest Environmental Advocacy Group, or Midwest Environmental Advocates. So there's also the DOT in the front, but I think we've seen that information before. So, Corp Counsel Hayes, may you indicate to the committee how we can proceed?
Well, as you can tell by all the paperwork that you read here, it's not an easy answer to this. So what I would recommend here, and what I would need to look at, is what is the specifics of the ordinance that you're looking at, because then that would determine, because there's such things that we have here, the rights of the riparian owners. Everything is based upon reasonable use. Reasonable use is determined on a case-by-case basis. I was looking here at just what was brought from the DNR there, saying that withdrawal from lakes, non-riparian has no common law or statutory right to withdraw water from the lake. So if somebody that didn't have property abutting to it went to withdraw water from lake, they can't do it. They don't have any right to it. So
I think the question was, though, when you're on a boat launch.
Well, who owns the boat launch?
Why
is that the county, or is that the?
It all depends. I know in Easton, we now own our boat launch.
They'd have to get permission from the town then.
Okay, so then, if the town is underneath county planning and zoning, probably.
Nope.
So that would have nothing to do with that. So then the question is, when it comes to an ordinance, are we now saying that we are giving power to the municipalities to create their own ordinances and enforce them, or what? I mean, well, what are we saying?
Here's the situation, and I looked up the statutes on this. Villages and cities have the power over navigable waters, and that's section 61.34 sub 1 for villages, section 62.11 sub 5 for cities. There is not such a similar ordinance for counties or towns.
Great.
So you have to look at here and have to determine, I mean, can I say that the counties have the authority to create such ordinance? No. Can I say they don't? No. I mean, I have to do further research, and that's why I would need to know the specifics, because we have to look at reasonable use. There's some case law here too that indicates, again, this is an old case law and I have to do some shepherdizing on it. The Constitution says, the Wisconsin State Constitution, the legislature may confer upon the boards of supervisors of the several counties of the state such power of a local, legislative, and administrative character as they shall from time to time prescribe. So basically the state gives the powers to the county. The Supreme Court interpreted that to mean that the state may only delegate to county boards powers of a local character and may not delegate powers over matters of statewide concern. So the other thing is the waters are basically left to the state in trust. So the state have controls over the lake waters. Is this considered a statewide concern or a local concern? So there's a lot to really consider here. And the reason that we want to really look into this before jumping into it and just doing an ordinance and then having it tested in court is because of the potential lawsuits. So is a person being deprived of a reasonable use of the work if we do such type of ordinance? And then you can look at monetary damages, punitive or compensatory, injunctive release. It could be expensive for the county to challenge, and then we might find out that the county doesn't have the authority to do it. So really want to look into it. And if we're going to do such an ordinance, we want to really peg it to really fit that situation where we don't have other people that have rights to it, cutting them off also.
Okay, so Doreen, I'll hold my question.
When you say that it's more of a city or a town
No,
a
city or
village,
village, yeah.
village, authority. The issue in Adams County is that the sheriff's department does not enforce town ordinances.
Correct. The town would have to have its own municipal court. Or, excuse me, the city or village would have to have its own.
So again, it's, you know, it's a waste of time then.
Well, I'm just wondering if, since this has occurred in Goose Lake and Jeff Spitzer-Resnick has reached out to you.
Yes.
And has provided the committee with a phenomenal amount of information in regards to what they experienced, if that would be a place to start. And maybe you could address their situations that they found themselves in. And we could look at this
and
next month.
Yeah, and again, there's just one thing I want you to consider, sometimes the unintended consequences. So right now, again, like I said, according to the DNR, a non-riparian has no common law statutory right to withdraw water from a lake. So now if we're making an ordinance saying, well, you cannot withdraw water from the lake, or you can only withdraw this amount, are we now giving them the right?
Can you
so
read that again?
It says a non-riparian has no common law or statutory right to withdraw water from a lake. And I agree with that. I didn't find any statute on it. I didn't find any case law that says that. Common law is only given to the people who own property abutting the lake. So, and then they have certain.
So are you, I'm sorry, so are you saying what they did was illegal by pulling the water from that lake?
Not illegal, but they had no right to do it. So you could have stopped, you couldn't have penalized them for it, but you could have stopped and said, hey, you had no right to do this. And I think that's what happened in Goose Lake. They sent them a cease and desist, which they did, which was the right thing to do.
So then could they get compensated, like go through the courts and get compensated for the?
No, because you have to look, again, this is where it gets difficult. How much water was taken? Was it reasonable use? Did it cause damage to the lake or to any of the owners around the lake? That's where it really gets complicated in a matter like this. So if you're looking at such an ordinance, again, right now, and again, I've just started getting into this. I've actually spent 2 days on it, and I get more questions than answers as I go into it. I'm looking at, if we're doing some type of ordinance, it would have to be for a non-riparian person withdrawing water from the lakes.
Which is in effect what we want to halt, right? I mean, it's the construction companies coming in that are building the roads.
See, and that's a problem because the DNR allows for that.
Right, and which is why, and I don't know if the DNR one is up there or not, from Mike Kowalkowski.
Yeah, I don't think he was going to appear, but
no,
go up a little bit. This
one, okay, so whether the county has the authority to enact an ordinance to be more restrictive than state statutes concerning water withdrawal from public water sources.
So now this is a situation too. The state has given the public trust of the waters to the DNR. Some other agencies have some minor control over it too, but it's primarily the DNR. So if the DNR says, oh yeah, we're making this reasonable use exception for construction work, now does the county have the authority to go over that? I don't think so, because the state has. Phil would like to say something.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Supervisor McLaughlin.
Thank you. Listening to Corp Council's comments, at least, of course, having something to do and having written some ordinances myself, my first impression of this situation is that typical ordinances are pretty just straightforward. I mean, this to me, the way I'm seeing it, to be successful is not going to be able to construct an ordinance in that fashion. In other words, where it's a blanket kind of an ordinance, I think that would be open to challenge too. But if you specifically put the time and money and effort into each water body, okay, depending on the water body, what's its water source? is it strictly precipitation? Does it have inflow? The recovery rate if somebody pumps water out of it. I think that's, in my opinion, where this, if you're going to be successful, that's the approach you're going to have to take.
And I agreed with you because that goes to the reasonable use, because if you got water coming in from different sources, well, it might be reasonable to take more water out of the lake, where if you got one, like you say, from precipitation, it might not be reasonable. So I think you're absolutely right. If you're going to look at something like that, it might have to be drafted for each lake.
At what level? Are we going back to the towns to do this?
Well, no, I
don't think you can, because there's no teeth in it.
Right.
No, I'm saying you probably should best stick with the county, but it's going to cost, because somebody's going to have you. Well, you'd be able to get a lot of data from DNR that's already published for free, just researching it.
Yeah.
But my point is simply that you'd have to look at each water body independently for these, at least a given list of basic parameters, rather than just a blanket ordinance, which I think you'd be quickly unsuccessful with that. I think the only way to make one and make it stick is if you do as I suggested.
And then the other thing, how often of a problem is this? I mean,
I don't know. I mean, Goose Lake took instance to it, right? So that's how we found out about it. If other lake districts aren't aware or don't care, right? I mean,
that could be it. And that's a situation, like I say, sometimes you draft an ordinance or a law and you create more problems on the road than what you really intended to. So we got to look at what are we doing here. But I said the way Goose Lake handled that with that cease and desist, and the people happen to do it right away, I think other lake districts should be made aware of that. Non-riparian owners don't have rights. But again, the DNR could always step in and say, well, we're giving our permission based upon the construction.
Right. So where do we go? Supervisor Woodman.
Yeah, so we go back to the scene where this took place. Goose Lake is a public landing. It is maintained by the Lake Association, I believe. Goose Lake Association. Who owns?
That was a question. I don't know who owns the boat launch. Is that what? Yeah.
Is that? I mean, there's a road that
Dustin,
leads off a road.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So yeah, go ahead.
And that came up to another question that I have is, of course, the people with the riparian rights, they can use water for reasonable uses, but it's silent on, can somebody with riparian rights say to somebody else, oh yeah, I'm going to let you use the water now. There's nothing on that I've seen. To me, it doesn't seem like that would make sense, but again, something we got to consider.
Riparian right guy would be the middleman.
Correct.
Supervisor McLaughlin.
Thank you. Years ago, one of the law changes relates similar to what Corp Counsel speaking about riparian rights, where years ago, people with non-riparian people, a riparian owner could grant riparian rights to an offshore owner. You can't do that anymore. That dates back several years. So given that, it would, to me, it would make sense, but that doesn't always work with government. It would make sense that in this case, no, you couldn't, a riparian owner couldn't say, oh, yeah, okay, come and take all the water you want to a non-riparian owner.
So granting rights versus giving permission, we're assuming that means the same thing to everyone?
Years ago, riparian owners could give riparian rights to their neighbor that's offshore. And the state said back this several years ago, I was still here, of course, but he said, no, you can't do that anymore because non-riparian owners were building piers and also and other things, and they didn't even have property on the lake. So, of course, like, digress here, but like in Rome, some of that stuff was alleviated at the outset because they created beach clubs for non-riparian owners, so they can go and have their day, but that's not the case most other places.
And again, to add more to this, as I was looking it up, part part of Adams County is in the Great Lake Basin, but it's just, I think, the southeastern part, not a very big part. So I don't know if any of the lakes are in there, because if you're in the Great Lakes Basin, even as a riparian owner, you can't move the water out of that basin. So, I mean, there's more things to look at. So,
Dustin, did you?
Looking at the parcel mapping, it shows it all is connected to all the streets in the subdivision there, which would lead me to believe it's a town property.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so we still haven't decided what we're doing here.
maybe it would be wise to contact all the lake districts and get their input, what they think, you know, yeah, is this a problem? Is this something that they want the county to pursue? Or should we just let it go with the understanding if something does happen, you're unhappy about it, check and see if it's a riparian or non-riparian and do the cease and desist. I just make them aware, give them the information, what we found out.
The best conduit for that, Mary Lou, would that be the Lake Alliance meetings? Could you do that?
First in
January.
But I think, I mean, just to comment too, I mean, this year was a bad year. It was drought. So,
right.
I mean, if it wouldn't have been a drought year, maybe there wouldn't have been a problem at all, even with these things.
Yeah, but you know, you still get into the fish stocking too. You know, it's not just water. It's what else is that big straw sucking up out of their lake. So, well, indeed. And so do you model an ordinance that covers those bases? I don't know.
And again, you bring up good points too. And I would look at the permitting system that the DNR does for the larger amounts, because I'm sure they have something in there. So we'd probably have to get what their permitting system is and maybe incorporate some of that language into an ordinance if we develop one.
So let's do first step, take it to the Lake Alliance group. And unfortunately, the attendance isn't always that great. So
Well, normally they
yeah, kind of got snowbird season. I can't say that 5 times fast. Yeah. Well, it's always on Zoom, right? Yeah.
I did send this out to other corp councils from other county to see if they have any such ordinances, and no response so far. So I'm just wondering if something's come up, but as far as case law and statute, not a lot of help.
Okay. Okay. So I guess we'll put this on the burner, waiting to hear back from the Lake Alliance group, and just keep studying the documentation. Maybe some one of us or more comes up with more to consider. So, okay. That was the water withdrawal. Financial reports. Are there any questions or concerns about the financial reports? It does not look like there is. Okay. I believe future agenda items, again, that would be water withdrawal.
That would probably go February.
That would be in February, yeah. So I mean, we can put it down there just as a marker. Go ahead, Doreen.
We talked about since the ruling changed for my position appointee.
Yes.
Adapting some policy. So I think maybe we should start talking about that before we get.
So the FSA agent. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you. We'll put that on for next month. Anything else for next month that isn't already on this document? Dustin?
If all goes according to plan, I may be coming to you with approval from joint finance or for the stewardship grant, at which point
Nelson?
Well, I mean, we've already approved applying for it. But once the title commitment's done and it goes to joint finance, and if we do end up getting that grant, at that point, the closing is going to be, I mean, one of the contingencies of the full county board has to approve the sale.
Right.
We would be at that point.
Okay.
Depending on, I don't know, joint finances committee or schedule, plus it depends on when we get this title commitment, but I believe in the offer to purchase, we put the end of February as the closing date.
Okay. So then that would apply to a January meeting and possibly a February meeting.
Right. That was between myself and the seller, just make sure we had enough time just in case. We can certainly close earlier than that, but that's kind of how long the agreement or the offer to purchase is valid for.
Okay.
But I am really hoping that for the January meeting, I would be coming here with the resolution to purchase it.
Okay. So we'll have that on too.
Maybe.
And just keep us posted. Yeah. We can always take it off.
Yeah.
Sorry for the delay in getting the agenda out this last week. We had some back and forth that needed to be answered by the DNR. So yeah. All right. Next meeting date is January 2nd, 2024. Have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and we'll see you next month. Meeting is adjourned.